The door burst open, and my brother Frank walked in, carrying bags of gifts and wearing that wide, warm smile he always brought with him for Christmas. He had come straight from the airport, and we hadn't seen each other in person in 3 years. His eyes scanned the decorated living room, the table set with sparkling tablecloths, the twinkling lights on the tree. But then his smile froze. He stopped dead in his tracks, the bag still in his hands, staring at the dining room table. There sat my son Eric, my daughter-in-law Melissa, and her entire family. Brenda and Gary, Melissa's parents, were occupying the heads of the table. Jessica, Melissa's sister, was laughing loudly in my favorite chair. Everyone was eating, drinking wine, and celebrating as if everything was normal. Frank dropped one of the bags. The thud made everyone turn around. Eric raised his glass with an awkward, tight smile. Melissa didn't even look at him. My brother took 2 steps forward, his jaw tense, his knuckles turning white from gripping the handles of the remaining bags. His voice came out hoarse, almost a whisper that cut through the air like a knife. "Where is my sister?" No one answered immediately. Brenda kept chewing. Gary took another sip of wine. Jessica giggled nervously. It was Eric who finally spoke, standing up from his chair with that stupid pride that had broken my heart just 2 hours earlier. "I kicked Mom out. My wife can't stand her." He said it just like that, chest puffed out, as if he had done something admirable. Melissa nodded from her seat, satisfied, wiping her mouth with my linen napkin, the one my grandmother had embroidered, the one I only used on special occasions. Frank didn't say a thing. He placed the bags on the floor, gently, with a level of control that was scarier than any scream. He took off his coat, folded it calmly, and draped it over the back of the sofa. He walked toward the living area without looking back, and then he found me. I was curled up on the old sofa, the one I had brought from my previous house, covered with a tattered blanket that wasn't even good enough for the dog anymore. My eyes were swollen from crying so much. My hair was a mess. I was still wearing the apron stained with grease because I had spent the entire morning cooking for a dinner I wasn't allowed to eat. Frank knelt in front of me. He didn't say a word. He just put his hand over mine and squeezed. That was when I heard the hurried footsteps. Melissa was running down the stairs, her coral-colored dress flowing behind her. She must have seen something in my brother's eyes that terrified her. She grabbed her purse and shot out the door. My son Eric didn't have the same luck. Frank stood up slowly, turned around, and what I saw on his face made me understand that this Christmas wasn't going to end the way Eric had planned. But to understand how I got here, lying on my own couch while strangers celebrated in my apartment, I need to go back 3 years, when everything started to fall apart. My husband died on a Tuesday in April. There was no drama, no long goodbye, just a massive heart attack while he was watering the roses in the garden. He was 67. I was 66. We had been married for 42 years. The house felt enormous after that. Every room was an echo. Every corner held a memory that hurt to touch. Eric would come to visit me on Sundays, always with Melissa hanging on his arm. She would smile, but her eyes were always evaluating everything. The antique furniture, the photos on the walls, the garden I could no longer maintain alone. 6 months after the funeral, Eric showed up unannounced on a Wednesday night. He looked pale, nervous, with that scared kid look I hadn't seen since he was 12. He sat at the kitchen island while I brewed coffee. Melissa stayed in the living room, scrolling through her phone. "Mom, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice trembling. I set the coffee pot down and sat opposite him. He took my hands. "We're in trouble, serious trouble." It turned out Eric had invested his entire savings into a business venture with a friend, an electronics startup that promised quick returns. But the friend skipped town with the money. Now Eric owed $120,000. The bank was threatening to foreclose on their condo. Melissa was pregnant, or so they said, that turned out to be a lie later. I didn't think twice. "I'll sell the house," Eric cried. He hugged me. He swore he would pay me back every cent. Melissa walked into the kitchen, gave me a cold, quick hug, and said thanks without looking me in the eye. I put the house on the market that same week. It was a beautiful home, 4 bedrooms, with a garden my husband had cultivated for decades. It was appraised at $300,000, but I sold it for $280,000 because I needed the cash fast to save my son. I gave Eric $120,000. He paid off all his debts. With the remaining $160,000, I bought this 2-bedroom condo, smaller, darker, but mine, or so I thought. The first few months were quiet. Eric and Melissa would come over for dinner on Fridays. She praised my cooking, even though she left half of it on her plate. Eric helped me with the grocery bags. It seemed like everything was going to be okay. But then the surprise visits started. Melissa would show up without calling on Tuesday afternoons. She brought her mother, Brenda. The two of them would sit in my living room and talk for hours as if I wasn't there. Brenda smoked inside my apartment, even though I asked her 1,000 times not to. "Oh, Linda, don't be dramatic. It's just one cigarette." Melissa started rearranging my things. She moved my photos. She swapped out the throw pillows. One day I came home from the pharmacy and found she had thrown out 3 of my plants because they looked ugly and old. Those were plants I had cared for over 15 years. "I was doing you a favor, Linda. This place needed to look more modern." When I complained to Eric, he sighed. "Mom, Melissa just wants to help. Why do you always have to create drama?" That was the first time I felt like I was losing my son. But I still didn't know how deep that loss would go. 3 months after moving into the condo, Melissa arrived one Saturday with a key in her hand. "My key, the key to my apartment." "Eric gave it to me," she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "So I can come over whenever I want without bothering you." I froze in the doorway. She walked past me, went into the kitchen, opened my refrigerator, and took out the juice. My juice. She poured herself a glass, drank it standing up, and left the dirty glass in the sink. "By the way, my parents are coming for dinner on Friday. Make something nice." She didn't ask. She ordered. In my own home, I called Eric that night. He was at work. I heard voices in the background, laughter, the sound of a busy office. "Mom, what is it?" "I'm busy. Your wife has a key to my apartment. I don't remember giving it to her." Silence. Then a long, annoyed sigh. "I gave it to her. She's my wife, Mom. What's the problem?" "The problem is that this is my home, Eric. They can't just walk in whenever they want without." God, Mom, always blowing things out of proportion. Melissa just wants access in case of an emergency. What if something happens to you and we need to get in? Think for a second. He hung up before I could respond. Friday arrived, and with it came Brenda, Gary, and Jessica. The 3 of them walked in like they owned the place. Brenda made herself comfortable in my favorite armchair, the one that had belonged to my mother. Gary turned on the TV without asking and cranked the volume up until the walls vibrated. Jessica opened my pantry and took out the cookies I had bought for myself. "Is dinner ready yet?" Melissa asked, checking her phone. I had spent 4 hours cooking. Roast chicken with potatoes, salad, rice pilaf, and a 3-milk cake for dessert. The table was set perfectly. I had used my good china, the porcelain with hand-painted flowers that my husband gave me for our 20th anniversary. "Is everything ready?" "Perfect. Mom, Dad, Jessica, come eat." They sat down, the 5 of them. Eric arrived 15 minutes later. He kissed Melissa on the forehead. He greeted his in-laws with enthusiastic hugs. He gave me a quick peck on the cheek without meeting my eyes. I remained standing by the kitchen island. "Aren't you sitting down, Mom?" Eric asked, pouring himself wine. "There aren't enough chairs." That was a lie. There were 6 chairs. But Brenda was in my spot, at the head of the table, where I always sat. "Oh, well, you can eat later in the kitchen," Melissa said, carving the chicken. "That way you give us some space. There are a lot of us." Eric didn't say anything. He ate. He laughed at Gary's jokes. He poured more wine. Not once did he turn to look at me. I stood in the kitchen, leaning against the sink, watching my in-laws devour the food I had prepared while my son acted like I was invisible. When they finished, Brenda snapped her fingers. "Linda, coffee." It wasn't a question. It was an order. I made the coffee. I served it. I washed the dishes while they watched TV in my living room. At 11 at night, they were still there. At midnight, Brenda yawned. "I'm tired." "Where are we sleeping?" Melissa pointed toward my bedroom. "There. The bed is comfortable." "Wait," I interrupted, finally finding my voice. "That is my room." "Yes, But my parents need to rest. You can sleep on the couch tonight, right? It's just one night. No, this is my house, my room. I am not going to. Mom! Eric's voice sounded cold, cutting. Don't be selfish. It's one night. Just one night. Selfish? This is my home. A home you bought with the money left over after I helped you. Technically, part of this place is mine too. I ran out of air. The words hit me like punches. Melissa smiled. Brenda and Gary were already walking toward my bedroom. Jessica was carrying their suitcases. That night I slept on the sofa, in my own apartment, covered with a thin blanket that smelled musty. I heard laughter coming from my bedroom, the sound of the TV, voices talking about me as if I couldn't hear them. Your mother-in-law is so bitter, Brenda said. I know, Mom, but Eric is working on it. Soon she'll understand her place. The next morning, I woke up with pain in my back and neck. Brenda came out of my room in my robe, and demanded breakfast. I made eggs, toast, orange juice. No one said thank you. When they finally left, I found my room a disaster. Sheets crumpled, wet towels on the floor, my perfumes moved around. And on my dresser, the photographs of my husband were turned face down, as if they wanted to erase even his memory from my own house. I called Eric. Your wife cannot bring her family here again without my permission. Mom, stop it. That's enough. Melissa is my wife. Her family is my family. And frankly, you should be grateful they still want to spend time with you. You aren't exactly the most pleasant person. Grateful? I asked. Grateful that they invade my space, sleep in my bed, treat me like a maid? You're being dramatic. You always have been. Maybe that's why Dad... He stopped. But the damage was done. Maybe that's why Dad what... Eric? He hung up. He didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. Melissa, on the other hand, came over every other day. She brought things. First, it was a hideous painting, a piece of modern art with gray splotches that she hung in my hallway without asking. Then it was new mustard-colored throw pillows that clashed with everything. Then, a massive lamp that didn't match a single thing I owned. I'm modernizing this, she said. It looks like an old lady's house. I was 69. I was an old lady. But this was my old lady house. One Tuesday, I came home from buying medicine and found Melissa and Jessica taking my photos off the walls. All of them. My wedding photos, photos of Eric as a baby, photos of my husband in the garden. They were shoving them into a cardboard box. What are you doing? Redecorating. These photos are depressing. They make everything look sad and old. Those are my memories. Exactly. Your memories. You don't need to see them on the walls all the time. We're putting them in the closet. If you want to see them, take them out. But the rest of us don't want to see a dead man every time we come over. Jessica laughed. Melissa smiled. And I, for the first time in my life, felt hate for someone. True hate. But I didn't say anything. I just watched as they shoved 40 years of my life into a box and threw it into the back of the closet. Weeks turned into months. And my apartment stopped looking like my home. Melissa had replaced my cream-colored curtains with gray and white striped ones I hated. She changed the tablecloths for modern plastic ones. She threw out my porcelain mug collection because they took up too much space and replaced them with plain mugs from a discount store. Every time I protested, Eric called me. Mom, Melissa is trying to help you. Why can't you be grateful? She could be doing 1,000 other things, but she chooses to spend time improving your apartment. I don't want her to improve anything. I want her to leave my things alone. Your things are old and ugly. Accept it. You need help, so the place doesn't look like a museum. He would hang up before I could defend myself. One Friday in October, Melissa arrived with Brenda, Gary, and Jessica. Again, they brought suitcases. Big suitcases. We're staying for the weekend, Melissa announced, dropping her purse on my sofa. There's a wedding on Sunday, and the hotel is crazy expensive. I told Eric it's better if we stay here. It's more comfortable. You didn't ask me. I don't have. You don't need to be asked in your own house, Linda, Brenda interrupted, lighting a cigarette. Besides, we're family. Gary was already in my bedroom, unpacking his things. Jessica had taken the guest room, the one I used to store the boxes of my husband's things. The boxes were now piled up in the hallway. Where am I sleeping? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The couch is fine, isn't it? Melissa said, checking her phone. It's just 2 nights. 2 nights turned into 4. The wedding was cancelled, but they stayed because they were already comfortable. I cooked every meal. I washed every dish. I cleaned every mess. They left. Brenda smoked in the living room and flicked ash into my plants. Gary left dirty clothes on the bathroom floor. Jessica used my expensive shampoo, the one I bought only for special occasions, and emptied the entire bottle. When they finally left, my apartment smelled like smoke and strangers. I found cigarette burns on my coffee table, wine stains on my rug, and my sheets, the ones I had bought the week before, were ruined with makeup stains. I called Eric, crying. Your wife and her family treated me like domestic help for 4 days, in my own house. Mom, for God's sake, it was just a few days. Is it so hard to share your space with family? It's not my family. It's your wife's family, and this is my house. You know what, Mom? I'm sick of it. Sick of your constant complaints, sick of your attitude. Melissa is right. You're a bitter woman who can't stand to see me happy. Happy? Happy allowing your wife to disrespect me? She doesn't disrespect you. You're jealous. Jealous that there is another woman in my life now. You need therapy, Mom. Seriously. That night I cried until my chest hurt. I sat on my sofa, in my apartment that no longer felt like mine, surrounded by things I hadn't chosen, and wondered when exactly I had lost everything. November arrived, cold and gray. Melissa appeared on a Monday with news. We're doing Thanksgiving here. Here? Yes. There are like 20 people coming. My whole family. It's easier to do it in your apartment than ours. Ours is smaller. Melissa, I can't cook for 20 people. I don't have the space for. Don't worry. My mom and I will cook. You just have to, I don't know, stay quiet and let us handle it. Thanksgiving was a nightmare. 19 people I didn't know arrived. Melissa's cousins, aunts, uncles, family, friends. They occupied every inch of my apartment. They shouted, they laughed, they drank. They dropped food on my carpet. A toddler spilled grape juice on my sofa, and no one cleaned it up. I stayed in the kitchen, washing dishes that piled up endlessly. Eric was in the living room with everyone else, telling stories, laughing, being the center of attention. Not once did he come into the kitchen to see how I was. When they finally left at 2 a.m, my apartment looked like a disaster zone. Broken glasses, dirty plates everywhere, smudges on the walls. The bathroom was flooded because someone left the faucet running. It took me 3 days to clean everything. 3 days during which Eric didn't call a single time. December arrived, and with it, the worst news. We're doing Christmas here, Melissa announced, walking in without knocking as always. My whole family. The full dinner. Eric already said yes. No, I can't. Not after Thanksgiving. I can't. It's not a question, Linda. It's what's happening. This is my house. Melissa laughed. A cold, cruel laugh that froze my blood. Your house? Linda, let's be honest. Eric pays your utilities every month. The internet you use? He pays for it. The cable? He pays for it. Half your groceries? He buys them. Technically, he maintains this place just as much as you do. That's not. So stop acting like you're the queen of this apartment. You're an old woman living off her son's charity, and you should be grateful we still let you live here. She left before I could respond, leaving me with words that felt like knives in my stomach. That night I called Frank, my brother, the only one I had left. He lived in Texas, over 1,000 miles away. We hadn't seen each other in 3 years because of the pandemic, work, life. Frank, I need to talk to you. I told him everything, every humiliation, every invasion, every moment they had treated me like nothing. I wept into the phone while he listened in silence. When I finished, his voice sounded dangerously calm. Linda, I'm coming for Christmas. I'm buying the ticket right now. You don't have to. I'm coming, and I'm going to fix this. I promise you. But I didn't tell him the worst part. I didn't tell him that 3 days earlier, Eric had come over with documents, legal papers. He wanted me to sign something that gave him shared rights to the apartment. In case something happens to me, he said. To make everything easier. Melissa was standing behind him, smiling. I didn't sign. Not yet. But the pressure grew every day. The week before Christmas, Melissa arrived with boxes of decorations. Not my decorations. Hers, shiny, modern, silver. She took down my small tree with its antique ornaments and put up a huge one that almost touched the ceiling. "This looks much better," she said, hanging balls that looked like mirrors. I packed my ornaments into a box. The ones my husband and I had collected for 40 years. The ones Eric had made in elementary school. The ones that represented every Christmas of our life together. Now they were in the closet, in the dark, forgotten, like me. On December 24th, Melissa arrived early with her entire family. Brenda, Gary, Jessica, and 6 others I didn't know. They started cooking. They took over my kitchen completely. When I tried to help, Brenda pushed me aside. "Better go rest, Linda. The adults will handle this." I went to my room. But then Jessica walked in. "I need to get ready in here. My room doesn't have a good mirror." "This is my room." "Yeah, but I only need it for an hour. Go to the living room." I went to the living room. But Gary was there, watching football, with the volume maxed out. The sofa was covered in his stuff. There was no room for me. I ended up on the small balcony, in the December cold, watching the city light up while my house filled with voices that weren't mine. At 6 in the evening, the table was set. But it wasn't my table. They had used tablecloths Melissa brought, plates that weren't mine, glasses I had never seen. My things were packed in boxes in the kitchen, stacked like garbage. The dinner smelled delicious. Roast turkey, mashed potatoes with butter, glazed vegetables, fresh baked rolls. My stomach growled. I had gone all day without eating, hoping someone would offer me something. No one did. Brenda sat at the head of the table, Gary next to her. Jessica, her husband, and their 2 kids took up one whole side of the table. Other relatives I didn't know filled the remaining chairs. Melissa sat next to Eric's empty chair. He hadn't arrived from work yet. I stood in the entryway of the kitchen, watching my own table, in my own apartment, fill with strangers. "Aren't you sitting down, mother-in-law?" Melissa asked, with that fake smile I knew so well. "There's no room." "Oh, right. Well, you can eat later. We left something for you in the kitchen." Brenda laughed. Gary poured wine. The kids screamed. And I stood there, invisible, like a ghost in my own life. Eric arrived 20 minutes later. He kissed Melissa, greeted his in-laws effusively, picked up his wife's nephews. He saw me standing by the kitchen and gave me a quick wave of his hand, like someone shooing away a fly. "Hi, Mom." That was it. He sat in the only empty chair, the one that should have been mine, and started to eat. He laughed at Gary's jokes. He praised Brenda's cooking. He toasted to the perfect family, and not once did he turn to look at me. I went to the living room. I sat in the only free space I found, a corner of the sofa where they had piled coats. I could hear their laughter, their conversations, their toasts. They were celebrating Christmas, my Christmas, in my house, without me. The tears started to fall. Silent. Hot. I wiped them away quickly, but they kept coming. 42 years of marriage. 69 Christmases in my life, and this was the first one I spent completely alone, surrounded by people. At 9 o'clock at night, I couldn't take it anymore. I got up from the sofa and walked toward my bedroom. But when I opened the door, I found 2 of Jessica's kids jumping on my bed. They had pulled all my clothes out of the closet and were playing dress-up. My green dress, the one I wore for my husband's 60th birthday, was on the floor, trampled and wrinkled. "What are you doing?" The kids ignored me. They kept jumping, laughing, destroying. I went to find Jessica. She was at the table, drinking wine, talking to her husband. "Your kids are destroying my room." "They're kids, Linda. Let them play. They are ruining my clothes." "Oh, for God's sake, it's just old clothes. Relax." I went back to my room. The kids had now opened my jewelry box. They had the earrings my husband gave me for our first anniversary. They were using them as toys, throwing them at each other. "Stop, drop that." One of the kids looked at me and stuck out his tongue. The other threw the earrings on the floor and stomped on them. I heard the crunch of metal bending. Something inside me broke. I walked out of the room, shaking. I went straight to Eric. He was pouring more wine, laughing with Gary about some football game. "Eric, I need to talk to you. Now." "Mom, I'm busy. Jessica's kids destroyed my things. My jewelry, my clothes. You need to." "Mom, they're kids." "Calm down." "I am not going to calm down. This is my house, and your wife and her family are treating me like trash. The noise at the table stopped. Everyone turned to look at me. Melissa stood up slowly, her napkin still in her hand. Excuse me? What did you say? I said you treat me like trash. In my own house. You kick me out of my room, take my place at the table, destroy my things, and act like I don't exist. Brenda let out a dry laugh. Linda, nobody is treating you badly. You're the one having trouble sharing. Trouble accepting that your son has a new family. I am his family. You were his family, Melissa corrected, walking toward me. Now I am his family, me and my people. And if you can't accept that, then maybe you're the one who shouldn't be here. The silence that followed was deafening. Eric said nothing. He stood there, holding the wine bottle, looking at the floor. Eric, I whispered, say something. He looked up, and what I saw in his eyes terrified me. There was no love, no concern. There was only discomfort, annoyance, as if I were the problem, as if I were the intruder. Mom, maybe you should go rest. You're upsetting everyone. Upsetting? They are pushing me out of my own life. Enough! Eric shouted, slamming the table. The glasses shook. Enough with your drama. We are trying to have a nice Christmas, and you are ruining it with your constant complaining. My complaining? Eric, I sold my house to save you. I gave you every cent I had, and now you allow your wife to treat me like. And I thank you for that. But that doesn't give you the right to make my life miserable. It doesn't give you the right to hate my wife just because she's my priority now. The words fell like stones. Heavy. Final. I looked at my son, the boy I had carried, fed, raised, protected for 38 years, and I didn't recognize him. So, what do you want me to do? I asked, my voice cracking. Eric looked at Melissa. She nodded. He took a deep breath. I think you need to leave for a while. Let us have our dinner in peace. You can stay in your room or go for a walk. I don't know. Just leave us alone. Leave? My own house? Mom, please, don't make this harder. Melissa smiled. A small, victorious smile that confirmed what I already knew. She had won. She had taken my son, my house, my life. And he had let her. I turned around without saying another word. I walked to my room, closed the door, and stayed there. I listened to their laughter, their toasts, their celebrations. It was as if nothing had happened, as if I didn't exist. I lay on my bed, still covered with the kids' scattered clothes, and closed my eyes. I thought of my husband, how he never would have allowed this, how he would have defended me, protected me, loved me, and I cried for him, for me, for everything I had lost. At 11 at night, I heard a knock on my door. Linda, it was Melissa's voice. We need the room. Gary's parents are going to sleep here. You have to come out. I didn't answer. Linda, I'm talking to you. Open the door. Silence. Fine. Eric, bring the key. The door opened. Eric walked in first, avoiding my gaze. Melissa entered behind him, triumphant. Gather your things. You're sleeping on the couch. No. Excuse me. I said no. This is my room. My bed. I am not moving. Melissa looked at Eric. He approached me, uncomfortable. Mom, it's just one night. Please, don't cause a scene. I already caused a scene, Eric. And you know what? I don't care. This is my house, my room, and I am not moving. Eric sighed. He grabbed my arm, tried to pull me up from the bed. Mom, get up. No, Eric, let go of me. We struggled. He pulled on my arm. I clung to the sheets. Melissa watched us from the doorway, arms crossed, enjoying every second. Finally, Eric let go. He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated, desperate. You know what, Mom? Do whatever you want. Stay here, ruin Christmas, ruin everything like you always do. He stormed out of the room. Melissa stayed a moment longer, looking at me with disdain. This isn't over, Linda. I promise you. She closed the door. I heard her footsteps walking away, their murmuring voices, and then silence. I stayed in my bed, shaking, unable to believe what had just happened. My son had tried to physically remove me from my own room, my own son. I stayed awake all night. I heard movement in the apartment, voices, muffled laughter, the sound of plates and glasses. At 2 in the morning, everything quieted down. But I was still awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I had reached this point. At 6 in the morning, I heard a knock on my bedroom door. Soft, almost timid. "Mom," it was Eric. His voice sounded different, less harsh, almost guilty. I didn't answer. "Mom, I know you're awake. I need to talk to you." I waited. He opened the door slowly. He was carrying 2 cups of coffee. He sat on the edge of my bed, offered me one. I refused it. "Listen, about last night. I went too far. I know. I shouldn't have tried to drag you out of your room. It was too much." Silence. "But Mom, you have to understand. Melissa is my wife. Her family is important to me. And you constantly attack her, criticize her, make her feel bad. I can't keep choosing between you two." "You don't have to choose, Eric. You just have to ask her to respect me, to respect my home. She respects you. You're the one who can't accept that things have changed." I sat up in bed. I looked him straight in the eye. "I sold my house for you, the house your father and I built, my memories, my life, everything. I sold it to save you. And this is how you pay me back? By letting your wife treat me like nothing? I appreciate it, Mom. Really. But that was your decision. I didn't force you. You begged me. You cried. You told me you would lose everything, and you decided to help. That makes you a good mother. But it doesn't make me your slave forever." The words hit me like slaps to the face. I wanted to scream at him, tell him everything I felt, but I was so tired, so empty, that I could only whisper, "Get out of my room, Eric. Mom, get out, please." He left the coffee cup on the dresser and walked out without another word. He closed the door gently, as if that made what just happened any less painful. I got up. I got dressed. I walked out of my room. The apartment was a disaster. There were cups everywhere, dirty plates stacked in the kitchen, stains on the carpet. The Christmas tree had half its lights out, and on the sofa, covered with a thin blanket I recognized as mine, Gary was sleeping, snoring loudly. I started to clean, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what else to do. I washed dishes. I picked up trash. I scrubbed stains. At 9 in the morning, Brenda came out of the guest room. "Oh, good. You're cleaning. We left everything a bit messy last night." I didn't answer. "There's coffee. Make your own." Brenda raised her eyebrows. "Wow. Someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Still mad about last night? Linda, you need to learn to relax. Life is too short to be bitter all the time." I dropped the rag in the sink and looked at her. "Brenda, with all due respect, you have no idea what I am going through. I know exactly what you're going through. You're going through what every mother-in-law goes through. The moment your son stops being yours and becomes someone else's husband. It's natural. It's normal. But you are clinging on, and it just makes you look pathetic." I took a deep breath, counted to 10. I didn't answer. I turned around and kept cleaning. "You know," Brenda continued, pouring herself the coffee I had made, "Melissa told me you don't want to sign those papers. The papers for the apartment." I stopped. "Those papers are none of your business." "Of course they are. We're family. And quite frankly, it's ridiculous that you don't want to share ownership with your own son after everything he does for you." "Everything he does for me?" "Brenda, this is my home. I bought it with my money. The money left over after I saved your son-in-law from ruin. Details. The point is that Eric is your only son, your only family. You should ensure he has a place to live when when you're no longer here." Eric has his own apartment, a small apartment, with a lot of debt still. This place is bigger, more comfortable, perfect for when they have kids. There it was. The truth. They wanted my apartment. They didn't just want to control it. They wanted to own it. "Tell your daughter I am never going to sign those papers." Brenda smiled, a cold smile that froze my blood. "We'll see." Christmas Day was a silent hell. Everyone acted as if nothing had happened. They ate breakfast. They watched movies. They exchanged gifts among themselves. No one gave me anything, not even Eric. At 3 in the afternoon, while I was in my room trying to escape the noise, Melissa walked in, without knocking. As always, "We need to talk. I have nothing to talk about with you." "Yes, you do. About your attitude." I got up from the bed. "My attitude? Melissa, You invaded my home, displaced my things, treated me like a servant, and now you come to talk to me about my attitude? Yes. Because your attitude is ruining your son's marriage. My attitude has nothing to do with your marriage. It has everything to do with it. Eric is constantly stressed because you can't accept that he isn't a child anymore, that he has a wife, that he has responsibilities that go beyond pleasing you. I have never asked him to please me. I have only asked for respect. No, Linda. What you ask for is control. Control over his life, control over his decisions, control over this apartment that, frankly, you should be sharing with him. This apartment is mine, for now. But things can change. Papers can get lost. Accidents can happen. Old ladies fall all the time. They forget things. They get confused. I stood frozen. Was she threatening me? Was she actually threatening me in my own home? Get out of my room. Or what, Linda? What are you going to do? Call your son? He's on my side. He will always be on my side, because I give him what you can never give him. Unconditional love, no strings attached, no manipulation. I have never manipulated him. No? And what was selling your house? Did you not do it so he would feel indebted to you forever, so he could never leave you? That is manipulation, Linda, and I am freeing him from it. She walked out of the room before I could respond, leaving me shaking, terrified, feeling for the first time that I was in real danger. That night, while everyone ate pizza they had ordered without asking if I wanted any, I stayed in my room. I heard their voices, their laughter, and for the first time in my life, I felt true fear of my own son, or rather, fear of the woman who controlled him. At 10 o'clock at night, when I thought everyone was asleep, I went out onto the balcony. I needed air. I needed to think. The December cold hit me, but it felt good. It cleared my mind. That was when I heard voices. They were coming from the kitchen. The balcony window opened right there. I moved closer. I recognized the voices of Melissa and Brenda. "How much longer are we going to keep up this charade?" Brenda asked. "Not much. She's almost broken, almost ready to cave. And if she doesn't cave, then we push harder. Eric is on our side. She has no one else. What if she calls that brother of hers? Frank lives in Texas. He's not coming. And even if he came, what is he going to do? This is between mother and son. He can't get involved. So, when are you asking Eric to take the apartment? Soon. Maybe after New Year's, when she's more vulnerable, more alone. We'll make her believe it's for her own good, that it's dangerous for her to live alone at her age, that she needs care, and once she signs, this place will be ours. And her? Where will she go? I don't know. I don't care. A nursing home, the street, wherever. I just want this apartment. It's perfect for us. And she is just an obstacle. Brenda laughed. Melissa laughed too, and I stood there, frozen, listening to them plot to steal the only thing I had left. I sneaked back into the apartment. I went to my room. I locked the door, and for the first time in months, I made a decision. I called Frank. "Linda, it's 11 at night. What's wrong?" "Frank," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I need you to come. Please. I need help." "What happened?" I told him everything. The threats, the plans, everything I had heard. He didn't interrupt. He just listened. And when I finished, his voice sounded like steel. "I'm arriving tomorrow. The flight leaves at 6 in the morning. I land at 2 in the afternoon. Linda, hold on. Just hold on one more day. I'm going to fix this." "How?" "You'll see. Trust me." We hung up. I lay in my bed, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something resembling hope. The morning of December 26th dawned gray and cold. I got up early, before everyone else. I made coffee in silence, trying not to make noise. My hands shook as I held the cup. Frank would arrive in a few hours. I just had to hold on until then. Eric was the first to wake up. He came down in pajamas, his hair messy. He saw me in the kitchen and stopped. "Good morning, Mom." "Good morning." Awkward silence. He poured coffee and sat at the table. I remained standing by the sink. "Listen," he began, without looking me in the eye. "We need to talk about something important." My heart raced. I already knew what was coming. "Melissa and I were talking, and we think that, well, we think it would be better if you lived in a place more suitable for your age." "More suitable?" "Yes. A place with care, with nurses, with people your age. A place where you can be more comfortable. You are talking about a nursing home. It's not a nursing home, Mom. It's an assisted living facility for seniors. They have activities, gardens, medical attention. It would be perfect for you. I am 69, Eric. I am perfectly healthy. I don't need assisted living. But Mom, you live alone. What if something happens to you? What if you fall? What if you have an emergency? I have a phone. I have neighbors. You have no one, Mom. You only have me. And I can't be coming over every time you need something. I have my life, my wife, my responsibilities. Melissa walked into the kitchen at that moment. She was wearing a lavender robe. She poured herself coffee and sat next to Eric, taking his hand. Good morning, mother-in-law. I heard the conversation, and you have to understand that this is the best thing for everyone. For you, especially. I am not going to any facility. This is my house. Linda, Melissa's voice became harder. Let's be realistic. You can't maintain this place alone. It's too big, too expensive. And you are getting older. Every day you are more fragile, more forgetful. I am not forgetful. Yesterday you left the stove on for 2 hours. That is a lie. It is. I saw it on. Eric saw it too. Right, babe? Eric nodded, without looking at me. Yes, Mom. We saw it. You worried us a lot. It was a lie. It was all a lie. I hadn't used the stove yesterday. But they were building a narrative. A story of an incompetent old woman who couldn't take care of herself. And then there is the issue of your medication, Melissa continued. Yesterday I found your blood pressure pills in the bathroom. You hadn't taken them. Because I already took them in the morning. I left the bottle there by accident. Or did you forget? Linda, these are symptoms of senile dementia. You need professional help. I do not have dementia. Maybe not yet. But it is starting. And it is better to act now, before it gets worse. I stared at her, disbelieving. She was lying blatantly, and Eric was backing her up. My own son was helping her build lies about me to justify kicking me out of my house. I am not leaving. Mom, Eric's voice became impatient. It's not a suggestion. It is what is going to happen. We already researched places. There is a very nice one 40 minutes from here. We are going to visit it next week. I am not going. Yes, you are going. And you are going to sign the transfer papers for the apartment so that when you leave, I can take care of this place. Sell it, rent it, whatever is necessary. There it was, the truth. They didn't care about my well-being. They only wanted my apartment. This apartment is in my name. You cannot do anything without my consent. Melissa smiled. That cold smile I already knew. Linda, if we declare you mentally incompetent, we can obtain legal guardianship over you. And then, yes, we can do whatever is necessary, including selling your apartment to pay for your care. You cannot declare me incompetent. I am perfectly fine. Are you? Because I have videos of you talking to yourself. I have photos of the stove left on. I have texts where you forget dates and appointments. I have enough evidence to convince a judge that you need help. I ran out of air. She had been recording me, documenting supposed proof of incompetence. It had all been planned. Every invasion, every humiliation, everything led to this moment. You planned all of this. We didn't plan anything, Mom. We are just being responsible. Taking care of you as we should. Brenda walked into the kitchen at that moment, followed by Gary. Did you tell her already? Brenda asked, pouring coffee. We are explaining it to her, Melissa responded. But she's being difficult. Linda, Brenda said, sitting at my table as if it were hers. You have to be reasonable. No one wants to see you suffer. No one wants something bad to happen to you. But you are at an age where things can get complicated quickly. I am 69, Brenda, not 89. Age is just a number. What matters is mental capacity. And clearly, yours is declining. Gary nodded from his spot. Everyone was against me. In my own kitchen. In my own home. I am not signing anything. And I am not going anywhere. Then we will be forced to take legal measures, Melissa said, with a lawyerly tone. And believe me, Linda, you don't want us to reach that point? It would be humiliating for you. Public. Painful. Better do it the easy way. I got up from the table. My legs were shaking, but I stood firm. I want you to leave. All of you. From my house. Now. Melissa laughed. Or what? You're going to call the police? Go ahead. Call them. And when they come, we will show them all the evidence of your incompetence. We will tell them you are having an episode, that you are a danger to yourself. You know what they do with old ladies who are a danger? They hospitalize them. They evaluate them. And if they find enough reasons, they lock them up. That is a lie. It is. Try it and see. Eric stood up. Mom, please. Don't make this harder. Just accept that this is the best for you. Sign the papers. Let us help you. Help me? You are stealing my life. We are saving you from yourself. At that moment, I heard a sound that made me cry with relief. The doorbell. Someone had rung the doorbell. We all froze. No one expected visitors. Who is it? Melissa asked, annoyed. I don't know. I lied. I went to the door. I looked through the peephole. It was Frank, with 2 suitcases and an expression on his face I had never seen. A mix of contained fury and absolute determination. I opened the door and threw myself into his arms. I cried. Finally, I cried for real. Without hiding, without holding back. Frank hugged me tight. One hand on my head, the other on my back. I'm here, Linda. I'm here. Everything is going to be okay. We walked in together. Frank left the suitcases by the door and looked at the scene in the kitchen. Eric standing, pale. Melissa with her arms crossed, evaluating. Brenda and Gary still sitting at the table, with expressions of surprise. Who are you? Melissa asked. Frank walked toward her slowly. He was a big man, 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and large hands. He had been a boxer in his youth, and although he was 65 now, he was still intimidating when he wanted to be. I'm Frank, Linda's brother. And who are you to speak to my sister like that in her own house? Melissa took a step back. I'm her daughter-in-law, Eric's wife. Ah, the wife. Frank looked her up and down with disdain. I've heard a lot about you. Nothing good. I don't know what your sister told you, but she told me the truth. She told me how you've been treating her, how you humiliated her, how you planned to steal her apartment, how you threatened to declare her incompetent. The silence that followed was absolute. Eric turned even paler. Brenda stood up from the table. That is ridiculous. Nobody is. Shut up. Frank's voice cut the air like a whip. Don't talk to me. I don't want to hear a single word from your mouth. He turned toward Eric. And you, my nephew, my sister's son, how could you? How could you betray your own mother like this? Uncle Frank, you don't understand. Mom is. What? Old? Incompetent? A burden? Frank approached Eric until he was inches from his face. Your mother sold her house to save you. She gave you everything. Everything. And you pay her back like this? Allowing this woman to torture her in her own home? I didn't torture her, Melissa protested. Frank didn't even look at her. All of you. Out. You have 1 hour to gather your things and get the hell out of this apartment. Melissa laughed. A nervous, incredulous laugh. Excuse me? Who do you think you are to kick us out? This isn't your apartment. It's my sister's apartment. And she wants you gone, so you're leaving. We are not going anywhere. Brenda stood up, facing Frank. My daughter and my son-in-law. Her only family. I am her family. Frank's voice lowered to a dangerously calm tone. I am her brother, and you are invaders who have been abusing a 69-year-old woman in her own home. That's not true, Eric shouted. Mom is exaggerating everything. She always does. She's dramatic. She's manipulative. She's lying to you. Frank turned toward him. What I saw in my brother's eyes scared even me. Repeat that. I said Mom is. He didn't finish the sentence. Frank grabbed him by the shirt collar and pushed him against the wall. Not violently, but with enough force to make clear who was in control. Listen to me well, boy, because I'm only going to say this once. Your mother is the most honest, hard-working, self-sacrificing woman I have ever known. She raised an ungrateful son alone while your father worked 16 hours a day. She gave you everything, everything. And now you come to call her a liar in her own house? Uncle Frank, let me go. When I finish talking. Your mother called me last night crying, terrified. She told me how you planned to steal her apartment, how you fabricated false evidence of incompetence, how you threatened to lock her in a nursing home. Is that true? Eric didn't answer. His silence was all the confirmation Frank needed. You are a disgrace to your mother, to your dead father, to this family. He let him go. Eric stumbled, coughing. Melissa ran to him. You can't do this. I'm going to call the police. Do it, Frank said, pulling out his phone. I'm going to call them too. And I'm going to report harassment, elder abuse, attempted fraud, and threats. Want to see who comes out worse? Melissa froze. Brenda too. Gary, who until now had remained quiet, finally spoke. Listen, maybe this got out of hand. Maybe we should all calm down and… Shut up, Frank interrupted. You, the one who smoked inside this house, the one who left cigarette burns on the coffee table, the one who treated my sister like a maid. Shut up and pack your things. You can't kick us out just like that, Brenda said, regaining some courage. We are Eric's family. We have a right to be here. You have no rights. This apartment is in the name of Linda Gonzalez. Only Linda. Neither Eric nor anyone else has rights to this property. And if you don't leave voluntarily, I will remove you myself. You in what army? Gary asked, puffing out his chest. Frank laughed, a dark, humorless laugh. Do you really want to find out? I'm 65, Gary, but I boxed for 20 years, and you look like someone who hasn't lifted anything heavier than a beer. So yeah, ask yourself, do you really want to find out? Gary backed down. Brenda took his arm. Let's go. These people are crazy. Yes, Melissa said, grabbing her purse. Let's go. But this doesn't end here. I'm going to talk to a lawyer. I'm going to sue for harassment, for assault, for attempted theft, Frank interrupted. For elder abuse, for fraud, for threats. Go ahead, do it. I have recordings of the conversation you had last night with your mother, where you plan to take the apartment from Linda, where you talk about declaring her incompetent, where you say you don't care where she ends up. Want a judge to hear that? Melissa went white. Completely white. No, you don't have any recording. Frank pulled out his phone, pressed play, and Melissa's voice filled the kitchen. When are you asking Eric to take the apartment? Soon. Maybe after New Year's. When she's more vulnerable. More alone. I ran out of air. Frank had recorded the conversation. He hadn't arrived today. He had arrived last night, late, without anyone seeing him, and he had heard everything. Turn it off, Melissa whispered. Why? It's barely starting. The part where you say you don't care if Linda ends up on the street is coming up. Turn it off! Frank stopped the recording, pocketed the phone. You have 45 minutes. Gather your things and get out. If in 45 minutes you are still here, I play this recording for the police, and believe me, elder abuse is a felony, a very serious one. Brenda was the first to move. She ran toward the guest room. Gary followed her. I heard drawers opening, things being thrown into suitcases. Melissa stood there, looking at Eric, hoping he would do something, that he would defend her, that he would confront Frank. But Eric just looked at the floor, defeated, humiliated, scared. Eric, Melissa whispered. Say something. He looked up. He looked at his wife, then at Frank, then at me. And what I saw in his eyes broke my heart. There was no regret, no guilt. There was only resentment. Resentment toward me, as if this was my fault. Let's go, he finally said. What? No, Eric, you can't let your uncle talk to you like that. You can't. I said we're going. Pack your things. Melissa looked at him in disbelief. But something in Eric's tone made her understand that the argument was over. She went to the master bedroom, my bedroom, and started taking her clothes out of the closet. I stood next to Frank, shaking, not from fear, but from relief, from liberation, from all the emotions I had been holding back for months. Thank you, I whispered. Frank put his arm around my shoulders. I should have come sooner. I should have visited you. If I had known, you couldn't know. I didn't tell you. You should have. From the beginning. I was ashamed. Ashamed that my own son treated me like this. The shame is his. Not yours. Never yours. The next 40 minutes were chaotic. Brenda and Gary came down with 4 suitcases. Jessica appeared from somewhere, confused, asking what was happening. No one explained, they just shoved her in the car and left. Melissa came down with 3 suitcases and 2 bags. She didn't look at me. Not once. She walked past me, as if I were invisible. As if I didn't exist. Eric was the last one. He came down with a backpack and a small bag. He stopped in front of Frank. "Can I talk to my mother?" "Alone." Frank looked at me. I nodded. He went out to the balcony but left the door ajar, enough to intervene if necessary. Eric approached me. For a moment, I thought he would apologize, that he would acknowledge what he had done, that he would ask for forgiveness. But instead, he said, "This isn't going to stay like this, Mom. Melissa is right. You need help, and I'm going to make sure you get it, with or without your consent." "Eric, no, let me finish. I know right now you're happy, that you think you won. But Uncle Frank can't stay here forever. And when he leaves, I'm coming back. And we're going to finish this conversation. About your future. About this apartment. About everything. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you that I'm going to take care of you, even if you don't want me to, because I am your son, and that is my responsibility." He left without saying another word. I heard the door close. I heard his footsteps walking away down the hall. I heard the silence that remained afterward. Frank came in from the balcony. "Are you okay?" "I don't know." I sat on the sofa. My sofa, in my living room, in my apartment, and for the first time in months, it was quiet. No strange voices, no alien laughter, no invaders. But I didn't feel victorious either. I felt empty, broken, because I had lost my son, the boy I carried, whom I nursed, whom I cared for 38 years. I had lost him to a woman who had turned him into someone I didn't recognize. "He's going to come back," I said quietly. "I know. He's going to try to take the apartment. Not if I can help it." Frank sat next to me, took my hand. "Linda, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Do you want to stay here? In this apartment? After everything that happened? It's my home. I know, but it's full of bad memories now. Every corner, every room. Do you really want to stay?" I thought about it. I looked around. The walls Melissa had painted gray. The furniture she had moved. The curtains she had changed. He was right. This place no longer felt like my home, but it was the only thing I had left. I have nowhere else to go. "Yes, you do. With me. To Texas." I looked at him in surprise. "Frank, listen to me. I have a big house. Too big for an old man alone. 3 bedrooms. Garden. Space. Peace. Come live with me. Sell this apartment. Use that money for yourself. To travel. To live. To be happy. I can't leave you like this. I can't be a burden." "Burden? Linda, you are my sister. My only sister. You would be a blessing, not a burden." The tears started to fall. Again. I spent the rest of the day cleaning. Not because the apartment was really dirty, but because I needed to do something with my hands. I needed to keep my mind busy. Frank helped me without saying much. We picked up forgotten cups, washed dishes, cleaned stains. Little by little, the apartment began to look like my home again. I found my photographs in the closet, the ones Melissa had stored away. I took them all out, one by one. My wedding, Eric as a baby, my husband in the garden, 40 years of memories dusted off and forgotten. I wiped them carefully and hung them back on the walls. Frank watched me from the sofa. "You look better when you smile." "I haven't smiled in months." "I know, and that breaks my heart." I hung the last photograph. It was of Eric at 5 years old, on his first day of school. He was wearing an orange sweater that he hated, but that I had begged him to wear. He was smiling at the camera, missing 2 teeth, with that innocence only children have. "Where did he get lost?" I whispered. "Where did that little boy get lost?" "I don't know, Linda. Sometimes people change. Sometimes the wrong influences turn them into people we don't recognize. But he is still my son. He is. Because the son I remember would never have treated his mother like this. The Eric I knew was kind, considerate. That man I saw today was not your son. He was a stranger with Eric's face. He was right, and that hurt more than anything else. That night I made dinner. Just for the 2 of us. Roast chicken with potatoes, simple salad, homemade bread. While I cooked, Frank put on music, old boleros our parents used to listen to, the house filled with the voice of Los Panchos. With memories of a simpler time, we ate in silence. A comfortable silence. No tension. No fear. It was strange to be at my own table without feeling anxiety, without expecting someone to criticize my food or demand something. "This is delicious," Frank said, serving himself more. "It's just chicken. It's the best chicken I've eaten in years. Because it's made with love, not obligation." After dinner, we sat in the living room. Frank made coffee. We settled onto the sofa, each with a cup, watching the city lights through the window. "Did you really mean it?" I asked after a while. "About Texas, completely serious. But your life is there. Your work, your friends. You can't just, Linda, I'm 65. I'm retired. My life is as lonely as yours. The difference is that I chose that solitude. You didn't. It was imposed on you. But I don't want to be a nuisance. How many times do I have to tell you that you aren't a nuisance? You are my sister, the only family I have left that's worth a damn. Mom and Dad died years ago. Eric turned into whatever he is now. It's just you and me, and I prefer to spend my last years with you than alone." I wiped the tears that were starting to form. "I need to think about it. Take the time you need. I'm not going to pressure you. I just want you to know the option is there. Always." That night I slept better than I had in months. In my own bed, with my own sheets, without fear of someone entering without permission, without anxiety of waking up and finding strangers in my living room. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Eric. I hesitated before answering. Frank signaled for me to do it. Put the phone on speaker. "Mom." "Yes, I need to talk to you. Without Uncle Frank. Just you and me. Uncle Frank is here, and he is staying." Silence. Then a sigh. "Okay. Both of you then? I need to talk to both of you. Can I come over this afternoon? At 4? Okay." Frank nodded. "Okay. Fine. I'm coming alone. Without Melissa. Just me. I need to fix this." He hung up before I could respond. "Do you think it's true?" I asked. "I don't know. But we're going to find out." The next few hours were tense. I cleaned the apartment again, even though it was already clean. I made coffee even though I wasn't thirsty. Frank read the newspaper. Calm. But I could see the tension in his shoulders. At 4 o'clock sharp, there was a knock on the door. It was Eric. Alone. Like he had promised. He was carrying a paper bag in his hand. He looked tired. Deep dark circles. Messy hair. He had aged 10 years in a day. "Hi, Mom. Uncle Frank." Eric. He walked in slowly, sat on the sofa, put the bag on the coffee table. "I brought sweet bread. From that bakery you like." I thought that. I don't know. I thought we could talk while we eat something. Frank didn't move. Neither did I. "What do you want to talk about, Eric?" He took a deep breath, ran his hands through his hair. "I want to apologize. For everything. For how I treated you. For how I allowed Melissa to treat you. For... I know it's not enough. I know words don't erase what I did. But I need you to know that I am sorry. Are you? Or did Melissa send you to say this? Melissa doesn't know I'm here. In fact, we're fighting. Badly. Since yesterday, she wants us to hire a lawyer, to fight for the apartment. But I can't go on with this." Frank leaned forward. "Why not?" "Because last night I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake all night thinking about what I said, what I did, and I realized I turned into someone I don't recognize. Someone my father would have hated." He mentioned his father, and he broke. Tears started to fall. "Dad would have given me a beating if he had seen me yesterday, if he had seen me treat you like that. And he's right. I'm 65. Uncle Frank, I should have done it. I should have defended you, Mom. But I got lost. I got so lost in making Melissa happy that I forgot who I was. I forgot what was important. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to throw myself into his arms and forgive him. But Frank put his hand on my shoulder, stopping me. Pretty words, Eric. But words are easy. Actions are hard. What are you going to do? Are you really going to change? Or are you going to go back to Melissa in a week and this is going to start all over again? I am not going back to Melissa. I broke up with her. This morning. I told her to get out of our apartment. That I needed space. That I needed time to think. And she left? Yes. She left with her parents, and she is not coming back. At least not soon. That doesn't mean you broke up. It means you are fighting. No, Uncle. We're done. I told her clearly that us is over. That I can't be with someone who hurt my mother so much. That I can't build a life with someone so toxic. I sat in the armchair across from him, looked him in the eyes, looking for lies, looking for manipulation. But I only saw pain, genuine pain. Why should I believe you? Because I am your son. Because despite everything I did, I am still your son. And because if you don't believe me now, if you don't give me a chance to fix this, I am going to lose myself forever. And I don't want that. I don't want to live the rest of my life knowing I destroyed the only thing that really mattered. Frank stood up, walked to the window. Linda, it's your decision. I am not going to interfere, but you need to think carefully about what you want to do, because if you give him another chance and he fails you again, I don't know if you will be able to recover. He was right. This was the moment, the decision that would mark the rest of my life. Did I forgive my son and risk him hurting me again? Or did I let him go forever and live with that void for the rest of my days? Eric, I said finally, if I give you another chance, it has to be on my terms. No Melissa in my apartment, ever again. No family of hers, no extra keys, no invasions. This is my space, and I need you to respect it, completely. I will, I promise. And I need time. Time to heal. Time to trust you again. It's not going to be immediate. It's not going to be easy. I understand. And if you go back to Melissa, if you allow her to enter my life again, it's over. Forever. Do you understand? Yes, I understand, and I accept. Everything. Frank turned from the window. One more thing, Eric. The apartment papers. Never again ask your mother to sign anything. This apartment is hers. Only hers. And that's how it's going to stay until she decides what to do with it. You're right. I never should have pressured her. That apartment is hers. Completely hers. We stood in silence. The three of us, the weight of everything that had happened hanging in the air. Shall we eat the sweet bread? Eric asked timidly. I looked at Frank. He shrugged. I guess so. We ate sweet bread, the three of us. In silence at first. Then, little by little, the conversation started. Small, cautious, but conversations. Eric told me about his work. Frank told him about Texas. I listened, observed, trying to decide if this was real or just another act. Time would tell. Only time. 8 months later, the August sun was streaming through the window of my new kitchen in Texas. A bigger kitchen than the one I had in my apartment, with beige granite countertops and windows looking out onto a garden full of flowers that Frank and I had planted together in the spring. I was making coffee when I heard footsteps behind me. Good morning, sister. Good morning, Frank. He sat at the table, still in pajamas, with the newspaper in his hand. This was our routine. Every morning, coffee, newspaper, quiet conversation while the day began. No rush, no fear, no invasions. Did you sleep well? Like a baby. That bed is a marvel. I told you, the best $2,000 I spent in my life. I poured myself coffee and sat across from him. Looked out the window. The garden was beautiful. Red roses, sunflowers, white daisies. Everything we had sown had bloomed, as if the earth knew we needed to see something grow. Something alive, something new. Do you know what day it is today? Frank asked. Friday. It is Friday. But it is also a special day. It has been exactly 8 months since you arrived here. Really? I hadn't realized. I did. Because I remember the woman who arrived that day. Broken, scared, defeated. And I look at the woman standing in front of me now. Smiling, rested, alive. I smiled. He was right. The last 8 months had been transformative. After that afternoon with Eric, I made my decision. I sold the apartment. It was faster than I expected. A young couple bought it for cash. $200,000, more than I had paid. With that money, I moved to Texas, to Frank's house. He gave me the master bedroom, the one with its own bathroom and garden view. I decorated it to my taste. I hung my photographs. I put up my cream curtains. I went back to using my porcelain china, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had a home. Frank didn't charge me rent. He didn't ask me to contribute to expenses. But I insisted. I paid half the food. I cooked. I cleaned. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because that way I felt useful, valued. We made friends in the neighborhood. Ellen and Eulalia, two 72-year-old sisters who lived 3 houses down. They visited us every Tuesday to play cards. We laughed. We gossiped. We shared recipes. It was the life I had always wanted, but never had. "Did you speak to Eric this week?" Frank asked, putting down the newspaper. "On Wednesday. He called to see how I was. And how is he doing with everything?" "Better, I think. He says therapy is helping him, that he is learning to set boundaries, that he is working on himself." After I sold the apartment, Eric went into a crisis. The separation from Melissa became official. She sued him for half the condo. He hired a lawyer. It was a long, ugly, painful process. But finally, it ended. Melissa kept her half, Eric his. Now he lived alone in a small apartment. More modest, but his. No debt, no Melissa, no in-laws, just him. And for the first time in years, he was learning who he was without someone manipulating him. We spoke once a week. Short conversations, cautious. He told me about his therapy, about his job, about his life. I told him about Texas, about the garden, about my new friends. It wasn't like before. It probably would never be like before again. But it was something. A start. A chance to rebuild what had been broken. "Do you think you'll ever forgive him completely?" Frank asked. "I don't know. There are days when I remember everything that happened and I feel anger. Days when I think about how he treated me and I want to hang up when he calls. But then there are days when I remember the boy he was, the son I lost, and I want to give him another chance. It's normal. Forgiveness isn't an event. It's a process. I know. My therapist tells me the same thing." Yes. I was in therapy too. Frank had helped me find a wonderful psychologist, a 50-year-old woman named Aurora, irony of the name, who had helped me process all the trauma, all the emotional abuse, all the pain. The sessions were hard. I cried a lot. I screamed a lot. But little by little, I began to heal. I began to understand that nothing that happened was my fault, that I didn't deserve to be treated like that I had a right to set boundaries, to say no, to protect myself. "And Melissa?" Frank asked. "Do you know anything about her?" "Eric says she got married again, to an older man, rich, has a big house on the outskirts of the city. Of course, she found her next victim, apparently. But she's not my problem anymore. Not our problem." We finished the coffee in comfortable silence. Outside, the birds sang. The sun warmed the garden. Everything was at peace. "You know what I'd like to do today?" I said suddenly. "What?" "Go to the farmer's market. Buy fresh flowers, maybe some vegetables, make a special dinner, invite Ellen and Eulalia. Celebrate these 8 months." Frank smiled. "Sounds perfect to me." We went to the market. We bought flowers, tomatoes, squash, fresh herbs. The vendor, a 60-year-old man named Adrian, recognized us immediately. "My favorite customers. How are you?" "Very well, Adrian. How is the family?" "Growing. My daughter had another baby. That makes 3 grandkids. Congratulations." We talked. We laughed. We paid. And as we walked back to the car with our full bags, Frank looked at me. "You're happy here, right?" "Yes. Happier than I have been in years. I'm glad. Because seeing you happy makes me happy." That night I made a beautiful dinner. Roast chicken with vegetables, rice with herbs, homemade bread, lemon dessert. Ellen and Eulalia arrived at 7. With wine and laughter, we ate in the garden, under the stars, with candles lighting the table. We talked about everything, about our lives, our children, our mistakes, our triumphs. Ellen told me about her divorce 20 years ago. Eulalia about the loss of her husband. Frank about his loneliness before I arrived. And I told them my story, for the first time, complete, without shame, without fear. I told them about Eric, about Melissa, about the invasions, the humiliations, the pain. And when I finished, Ellen took my hand. You are very brave, Linda. Not all women would have had the courage to leave, to start over at your age. I didn't feel brave. I felt scared. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite the fear. And that is exactly what you did. That night, after Ellen and Eulalia left, I stayed alone in the garden, watching the stars, thinking about everything that had happened, about everything I had lost, but also about everything I had gained. I had lost my apartment, but I gained a home. I had lost my son, at least for a while, but I gained my dignity. I had lost my previous life, but I gained a new opportunity. My phone rang. It was Eric. I hesitated a second before answering. Hello. Hi, Mom. I know it's not our day to talk, but I wanted to hear your voice. Is everything okay? Yes, everything is okay. Just, I was thinking about you, about how you are, about if you are happy. I am happy, Eric. I'm glad. I'm really glad. Because you deserve to be happy, more than anyone. And I am so sorry that I was the one who took that happiness from you. Eric. No, Mom, let me finish. I've been in therapy for 8 months, working on me, understanding what I did. And every day, I realize more how terrible I was, how I failed you, and I want you to know that I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to go back to how we were before. I just hope. I hope I can be better, little by little, and someday, maybe, I can call you my mother again, without it hurting you. The tears started to fall. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of something resembling hope. You are always going to be my son, Eric. Always. Thank you, Mom. I love you, even though I don't deserve it. I love you. I love you too. We hung up. I stayed there, in the garden, with the phone in my hand. Frank came out of the house with 2 cups of tea. Are you okay? Yes? I think so. Was it Eric? Yes. Good news? Yes. I think so. We sat together in the garden, drinking tea, watching the stars. And for the first time in my life, I felt true peace. Not perfect happiness, not absence of pain, but peace. The peace that comes from knowing you survived, that you stood firm, that you didn't let yourself be destroyed. At my 69 years, I had learned the most important lesson of my life. That it is never too late to start over. That it is never too late to choose yourself. That it is never too late to be happy. And as the wind moved the flowers in the garden and Frank hummed an old song, I closed my eyes and smiled. Because finally, after so much time, I was home.